Good morning. This is Catherine Grace with Catherine Grace Reports. I'm going to jump into my second video on Tim Holmseth, and I will be reading from Kim Picazio's petition to the Florida courts asking for a restraining order. I'm going to jump into this, and I want to say this first. This will probably be my last video about Holmseth, but I really want to draw attention to the fact that Holmseth is a psychopath. He doesn't observe boundaries. And in reading from Kim Picazio's petition, she goes into detail about the amount of videos and so forth that Holmseth has made about her, which since the time of this writing, there have been many more. And other people have joined on the bandwagon, which has increased the exposure and danger for Ms. Picazio and her family, her children, co-workers, so on and so forth. It's wrong. It is absolutely wrong. And Tim Holmseth calls himself a Christian. If someone calls themselves a Christian, I'm going to believe him. However, Tim Holmseth is completely out of order. I have gone to church with people who are, for lack of better words, batshit crazy. And Tim Holmseth is batshit crazy. He does not observe boundaries, people. That is what makes him so dangerous. And I want to stress, he is a dangerous person. He was so dangerous that his parental rights to his son were terminated. The reason that Holmseth's rights were terminated to his own child was because he overexposed his child. He exposed a young child to graphic pictures and graphic content, graphic conversations about the Haley Cummings case and the other cases, the other high-profile child cases that he inserted himself into. He brought his own child into it, and that is abuse. It is child abuse. It is child sexual abuse. Tim Holmseth never had to touch his own child to sexually abuse him because he overexposed him to the details of the Haley Cummings case and showed him graphic pictures. That's why his parental rights were terminated. That shows a gross lack of boundaries for Tim Holmseth's own blood, his own child. And the fixation that he has on Kim Picazio is it's illegal. Everything that he's doing is illegal. He has been mandated by the Florida courts to not talk about Kim Picazio, but here he is because he does not observe boundaries. That makes him a dangerous person, people. I cannot stress that enough. I cannot stress enough that you should not be supporting Tim Holmseth, not for any reason. There should actually be a hashtag running on social media right now, Tim Holmseth sightings, looking for Tim Holmseth. Turn him in. He's a danger to himself and he's a danger to society. I'm not sure how much of a danger Holmseth is to himself because he really likes himself. And I'll be reading from Holmseth's book. That's how I'm going to end this video. And if you are not shaken to your core by what Tim Holmseth says in his book, there is something wrong. I am praying for your eyes, I'm praying for your ears, and I'm praying for your heart, and I'm praying for your stiff neck. Because Holmseth is completely out of order doing what he is doing. It is psychotic. He is not like the police officer or the detective that had a case that bothered him because he never solved the case. The one that got away, the one that was never solved, the one that haunts them to this day. That is nothing like Holmseth. Nothing like this whatsoever. He is fixated. He is psychotic. He is a psychopath. He is stalking Kim Picasio, and he is bringing other people in to do it as well. You people who are promoting Tim Holmseth, you're gang stalking. Do you understand? Gang stalking. You are taking part in gang stalking of another human being's family and children. All right. That's my soapbox. Now I'll get to the petition here. Oh man, this really... All right, this is from Kim Picasio's petition to the Florida courts asking for a restraining order against Tim Holmseth. The respondent, Tim Holmseth is the respondent, often refers to himself as an investigator, investigative journalist, reporter, or author to create an order of legitimacy to himself. This gives unwitting readers of his emails, blog posts, YouTube video posts, Twitter posts, and Facebook posts the impression that they could be in legal jeopardy or publicly disparaged if they do not respond to him and answer his questions. The respondent does not hold any media credentials whatsoever. He is not employed by any media outlet or entity. In fact, it is understood the respondent worked for a small newspaper agency in North Dakota many years ago and was terminated from employment for cause. The respondent's former employer was so afraid of the respondent, she would not comment on the details of his termination. So, let me say that again. The respondent, Tim Holmseth, former employer, was so afraid of Tim Holmseth, she would not comment on the details of his termination. The sheer volume of material the respondent has spent his days and nights writing to or about me is psychotic and unfathomable. The respondent has circulated over 1,000 writings and or videos intended to humiliate, scare, or threaten me into contacting him. The respondent has sent me over 115 emails, nearly all of which are hostile, aggressive, threatening, sexually explicit, and or disgraceful. The respondent has created 74 YouTube videos about or directed at me. The respondent's infatuation and concentration with the subject of child rape, molestation, and pornography has intensified in the year 2011 and now serves as a central theme in his fanatical blog and internet posts and writings. Tim Holmseth has created 74 YouTube videos about Kim Picasio. Tim Holmseth's infatuation and concentration with the subject of child rape, molestation, and pornography has intensified in the year 2011 and now serves as a central theme in his fanatical blog and internet posts and writings. The respondent, a Minnesota resident who has never traveled to Florida, where the child went missing, claims to know Haley Cummings' present-day whereabouts. So, Tim Holmseth, the Minnesota resident who has never traveled to Florida. Okay, see people? That's in the petition. It's in there. Tim Holmseth says over and over that he's never been to Florida. Well, Kim Picasio says as much in her petition. You see it right there. So the respondent, a Minnesota resident, Tim Holmseth, a Minnesota resident, has never traveled to Florida where the child went missing. Claims to know Haley Cummings' present-day whereabouts. The respondent, Tim Holmseth, posts blogs on the internet, sometimes daily, describing disgusting tales about the murdered child being sexually molested by various adult men and being forced into sex slavery, child pornography, etc. The respondent posts pictures of young girls from various children's clothing or toy magazines and insists they are Haley Cummings, who has been forced into modeling. I didn't see that, but I believe her because evidently she had to prove all of her evidence when she brought this to the court. All right. I'm getting close to the end here. We're fixing to enter into Tim Holmseth's mind that he reveals in his very own book. Now, the Holmseth book is supposed to not be for sale. People are not supposed to have copies of that because the Florida court ordered that Holmseth remove that book from the shelves and that it could not be sold. Now, you have Phil McConnell, who is still distributing this book, selling it, so he's making money off of it. And it's illegal. It's illegal for Phil to be doing that, but he thinks that, his rights are above all else. And Phil is just another one who does not observe boundaries. So I've already been over the fact that Tim Holmseth does not observe boundaries. So you have a person who does not observe boundaries, and then I'm fixing to go into Holmseth's mindset that he wrote in the book that he published. And like I said, if it doesn't set off alarm bells, then there's something wrong with your eyes and your ears and your heart. Oh my goodness. All right. So we just got finished with Holmseth and him posting things about Haley Cummings, saying that she was being forced into modeling and so on and so forth. The respondent is fanatical, delusional, and seemingly psychotic. He is far more complex than a typical stalker, which makes him a threat to me and to society. He is delusional, exhibiting extreme paranoia combined with dishonesty and deceit. Holmseth is living in his car or wherever people give him a place to hang out, and he's on the run, which makes him more dangerous. And Field, his sidekick, who is promoting him, is not getting out of jail. Field is going to be sent back to Florida to answer for similar charges of cyber stalking. The gang stalking that I was talking about. Right. Okay. So Field will be going back to Florida to answer for cyber stalking Kim Picasio. This makes Tim Holmseth even more dangerous. Things are falling down around his ears, and it makes him a dangerous person. All right. The respondent has now written a book about Haley Cummings, which is centered upon me rather than the missing child. The book was self-published by the respondent, and he advertises it for sale on his website. Nearly every page of the book contains information about me and includes several private, non-public pictures of me. The book is filled with vile references to me and the respondent's experiences when he was in hell. Respondent believes he has died 2 times and has seen the gates of hell. The following are a few excerpts from the respondent's self-published book of January 2011. Another specter runs up and assaults the baby monster, biting into its toes and grinding them around in its teeth. The sound of squealing and crunching bones is audible as blood squirts all over, then turns into feces. Then, in an instant, the baby becomes a real human again. What are you looking at? Bleep. It says, then, in an instant, I am inside of its intestines. The specters are excreting on each other and eating it. They are engaging in sexual acts with instruments. They are raping and torturing each other. They are licking their fingers and giggling. They laugh and they cry. There is no up, down, or horizon. One of them tells me he wants to live inside of my bones, unpeels a banana, and then politely offers me a bit. His skin turns to banana peels. There are maggots on him that I can smell. I can taste the smell. Holmseth claims, I found myself inside the rectum of an animal, tasting Tasting the maggots of hell. Well, there you are. In Tim Holmseth's own writings, that is from Tim Holmseth's book. That's what he said that he experienced. And I believe him. He could have experienced that. It doesn't mean that it was godly. It doesn't mean anything. And it has nothing to do with Haley Cummings. But it's also very perverse, and it shows where Tim Holmseth is coming from. I have no idea why he thinks that that would be something godly. Or, I mean, I don't know. What it sounds like is that he is saying God allowed him to experience that part of hell, and that was a testimony from it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. There are no bananas in hell. There are weeping and gnashing of teeth in hell. There's no bananas. You can trust that. Where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, there are no bananas. So whatever Tim Holmseth saw, it doesn't make it godly. It doesn't make it right. It's not edifying to the church. And I'm not talking about the church in this instance, but folks, there are a lot of church people that are following Holmseth, and you're supporting him. You're wrong. You're out of order. I'm calling you out. I am asking you to stop. It is not God. It is not godly. You're gang stalking. You are taking part in gang stalking if you're supporting Tim Holmseth. As well as Tim Holmseth has a warrant out for his arrest. He is on the run, and yes, it makes a difference. And I'm not sure how many restraining orders have been taken out against Tim Holmseth, but I think there are at least 6. That Kim Bocasio asked for a restraining order and was granted. The Anthonys from Kaylee Anthony, they had and have a restraining order with Tim Holmseth. There was another one that someone told me about. Because Holmseth is fixated on high-profile child cases, and he tries to link them all. And it shouldn't be done because they're not all linked. And Tim Holmseth is just trying to make his whole he just keeps weaving the story. And y'all are still sitting there watching and cheering. It's very disappointing. Disheartening, really. And it's not edifying to the church if y'all are Christian people. Anyway, this is another 20-minute video on Tim Holmseth, and I do believe this will be the last one that I'm making. I think that if I haven't made the point that Tim Holmseth is nothing more than a perverted stalker, then people need to go back and understand what stalking is, what perversion is, where these people's mindsets are. Watch a program from the ID channel or 2. It's full of people like Tim Holmseth. And the endings are not good. So society will be fortunate if they get Tim Holmseth in jail before he creates any more problems. Keep that in mind, please. Society will be fortunate the sooner that they get Tim Holmseth in jail. All right, that's my report. This is Catherine Grace with Catherine Grace Reports. God bless you, folks. Lord bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.